What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind-the-scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, typology and life stuff. This is another one of those weird hybrids, but I think this one leans more toward typology, but not typically in the way we do typology. And I'm in a weird mood anyway. You ever have, well, I guess a large portion of our audience isn't American or South American. It's a bunch of old worlders, so you don't understand the pleasure, the rush that is understanding you are living in the new world. You begin the evening by listening to people speak Nahuatl, or however you pronounce it, and then you start reflecting on the souls of the Sisters America, and then you find yourself listening to engine noises, and you're not really doing anything, you're just sitting there, but you can feel your breathing get heavier and your heart rate rising. And then you start listening to music drenched in American car culture, like two of my favorites, Fuel by Metallica and Hot for Teacher, particularly the beginning, but the whole song is great, by Van Halen. And then your blood is pumping and you're getting flashes of industrialism, and you're wondering, contemplating, as if on the cross, why combustion and the human soul are so interlinked when they shouldn't be. It's like the stars crossed, we were made for one another. And then you're watching American propaganda edits while reading articles about Brazilian street mutts and reflecting on the supremacy of the mutt. And then you're thinking about the 2 world wars you won, single-handedly, of course, and then that leads you into watching English Spitfire startups, these beasts drooling fire out of their mouths, eager to kill Germans and protect their people, and then you stop and ask, what happened to England? The French need to stop fucking around and become New Worlders officially. You're already basically New Worlders. You're pretending you aren't for some reason. We need you over here to make anime and be dudes with the narrow faces and the women who don't shave. And then we need some of the English over here. The English are becoming properly mudded, joining New Worlders in mutt supremacy, and for our New World order, we're going to need mutts gene-crafted for colonialism. And this is why this video might not be a proper typology video, because the blood is pumping right now, and we aren't talking about any one typological mechanic. We're thinking about typology when it's turned into a tool. Because to me, typology is one of the most valuable tools humanity has come up with, and I'm confused as to why it seems like nobody's really caught on yet. And I don't even know, I understand how we arrived at modern typology, but it's really like getting fire from the gods. It feels like we are not supposed to have typology. I've been using the term Psyrunner half seriously lately, and even if that doesn't end up being the term we use, it's trying to wrangle a sort of person or a skill set a person could develop. Because a person with a complete, or at least a high understanding of typology, which we aren't even close to yet, would be dangerous. So right now, in my opinion, the peak of typology is still novice typology. There is still so much more we can figure out, and so much more we can do with what we figure out. But even with limited understanding wielded by people who are not predisposed to use typology the way it needs to be used, even these people see benefits. We'll use me as an example. My understanding of typology as a whole isn't close to complete, and even with the types I specialize in, there is still so much more there we don't know. There's more we don't know than we do know. And unfortunately, I'm a human, which we'll get into shortly. But even with all these factors considered, I can still use typology to accomplish things I otherwise couldn't. In myself and against or in other people. I know the first two things you need to do when assessing someone you're going to need to deal with is figure out whether they're an FE type or an FI type and where that FE or FI is located in their stack, and then whether or not this person is agreeable. Are they interested in cooperating, or do they just want to be a cunt all the time? If you can determine those two things, or those three things, in 30 seconds to a minute, you have an incredible leg up on another person. Because generally speaking, an FI type, or rather a TE type, is going to be blind to the shit you're pulling unless you overstep, and you'll always need to be careful about overstepping with an FI type. Whereas an FE type is going to be naturally suspicious of manipulation at first, but once you're in, it's like they'll make excuses for your overstepping if you accidentally overstep because you've already passed their initial sensors. And then with those FE types, all you need to do is figure out the way their TI puts the puzzle pieces together so you can put things together in a way they'll agree with before they know they're going to agree with it, or approach them on a level in which, quotes, trust is involved because you've already passed their shit sensor, and for lack of a better word, you can lean on them a little bit harder. Versus with FI types, once you've determined they're an FI type, you can be a little freer with your probing because they're not going to pick up on it. Or actually, the higher TE types will notice something is happening, but they're not going to understand A, what you're doing, or B, the extent to which you're doing it, or the sophistication, level of sophistication to which you're doing it. And then all you need to do is figure out the way their FI is oriented, what sets them off versus what sets them forward, what puts them in motion, and then line things up so the correct things set them off and the correct things set them in motion. And all of this so you can get done the things that need to get done without all this fucking human bullshit getting in the way. And there are hiccups, there are massive fuck-ups, there are shortcomings, but with just this example, you can see someone doesn't need a complete or even an especially sophisticated understanding of typology to get a huge advantage on another person. Can you detect and locate two functions and read a person's problem meter? That's all you need to do, at least for this strategy. And I mentioned humanness and shortcomings. So unfortunately, my values still matter to me, and my pride, banged up as it is very important to me. And that limits Psyrunning potential. Example. We're exaggerating here, but I'm dealing with a fascist and a Marxist. I need to figure out how to get them to cooperate. And despite lots of bumps and issues, I am making it happen. And I'm making it happen by making them both think I'm on their side. And I know I have neither of them fooled totally, thanks to my unfortunate humanness, but it's effective enough to act as grease and keep things moving. And how am I appealing to both of them politically, because that's the most important thing to both of them, unfortunately, at the same time? By reframing my restricted political beliefs and engaging them with things I believe that are true but painted their colors. So I get to appeal to them in an earnest and human way without totally lying to either of them. And that's the human shortcoming and limitation. I've tried the pure honesty at all times thing, and every single time that does not work. You need to conduct yourself like fog and rocks. But I can't go total fog or total illusion. One, because I can't sell it. I need to believe what I'm saying in order to sound believable. Two, I don't like total falsehood. It seems like total falsehood is doomed to fail always. It's like, I don't know, short-term gain sacrificing long-term stability. It's not worth it. And two, on a personal level, it disgusts me. I really wish we lived in a world we could be totally honest and still get things done and not try to kill each other. And then three, I feel some loyalty or allegiance to my personal beliefs. My TI, my construction of the world. My ideal construction of the world. Everybody needs to compromise to get anywhere and get anything done, but it feels like if I move too far away from my personal beliefs, then I'm betraying what I believe to be true, and I'm participating in building a world that is, or building a situation that is completely against what I care about or what would make me happy. And it is a damned shame a person needs to be a human. Because I was thinking about this today. Could you imagine what a person equipped with typology at a high level without these limitations could get away with? You could talk yourself into getting anything you wanted, go anywhere you wanted. You could talk other people out of anything they had, because it seems like human beings are like a biological matrix overlaying the physical world, and whatever you want from the physical world, if it's a thing, if it's an experience, if it's an outcome, you don't need to go into the physical world to get it. You can enter the right codes, and people will get these things for you or do these things for you. You just need to understand psychology enough to send those signals, enter those codes, or push those buttons to get them to do them for you. That's all it takes. It's not... God, there's a person who understands typology or psychology at that level really doesn't need anything else. Because, at that higher level, it's not like you need to figure out each and every individual as an individual. You just need to be able to figure them out enough to know which codes to enter, or at what stage you can enter which codes to get the things you want. No other work needs to be done. You don't need to lean on people or massage people necessarily to get them to do what you want. Those codes are already in them. All you need to do is figure out what those codes are and how to apply them. That's it. An individual biounit with all the codes to all the other biounits can get anything they want. It's just a matter of being outside that organic matrix enough. you have no qualms about doing these things. I'm working on that, but I know in my heart of hearts I'll never be able to perform that at that level, the level we're discussing. Even if in our lifetimes we develop typology as a whole enough to the point an individual could, I'm still limited by my humanity, by my connection with other people, even though I hate that. And I'm sure there's a reason for that connection still, that awful connection still exists, but it feels odd helping engineer tools you won't be able to take to their highest level. But knowing that high level exists because you've seen certain sorts of people get there without typology and stumble occasionally because they're self taught. They aren't systematizing this. This is all instinctual to them, which is spooky. But doing basically what you're talking about in a homebrew fashion and wondering what these sorts of people, these people capable of homebrewing these abilities outside typology, what they could do with a complete understanding. I've been thinking about psychopaths and sociopaths on and off for a while now. And I watched that Just an Observation video about that Todd guy from Breaking Bad, and I've never watched that show. I've seen episodes on and off, couldn't get into it. But that video and that character bothered me because he reminds me a lot of that one psychopath I need to deal with professionally occasionally. Just the character is younger and at a lower level. As in, with the character, watching someone enter these social codes but performing poorly, both because that set of social codes or social forms for this character is limited, and he doesn't understand how to deploy them well. So, limited tool set and limited understanding of how to deploy these human tools. Versus someone who's older and professionally successful and has a wide array of human tools and mostly knows where and when and how to apply them. Because I've been monitoring this real psychopath for a couple years now, and it's fascinating the way he can play most people like a violin, but he'll still fuck up these codes occasionally. And it's always weird watching that happen, both because he looks like he's pulling out mentally the how to deal with humans or how to play humans handbook and goes immediately into a different social nicety strat, and the way the public often forgives him, or over, I wouldn't say forgive him, but overlooks these things because he's played almost all of them almost perfectly at almost all times. So when you have this backdrop of codes entered successfully, you can fuck up sometimes. But then you still have these, worse is you have these moments, he'll fuck people the way he fucked me, thinking he can get away with it. And that's another one of these weird psychopath things. In most cases, he can get away with it. With me, he mostly got away with it with luck, but ooh, how long is that luck gonna last? And the higher you fly, the harder you fall. You can't fuck everybody forever and get away with it. And again, when he fucked me, just about didn't get away with it. And this sort of shit, it's interesting, it's also painful, because before I got fucked over, he played me really well. We've talked, it's been a while, but we've talked about this before. he made me want to get along with him, and then he fucked me over. And even now, on that dreadful human connection level, I still want to get along with him, even though, thank God, my shadow is strong enough to have a weapon ready at all times not to let that happen. But, and I bring that up because it's the effectiveness of high level Psyrunning. You can fuck somebody terribly, and if you operated well enough, they still, on some level, want to get along with you. That is the extent to which you can play somebody. Playing them to the point you can brutalize them, and if they don't have safeties in place, they'll still want to get along with you. That, well, I think there are two levels here. There is big picture Psyrunning and individual effect Psyrunning. The end game of individual Psyrunning is being able to manipulate people so well you can hurt them and still get them to do what you want willingly. And then big picture Psyrunning, of course, is being able to manipulate groups of people, crowd psychology shit, so well you can get large amounts of power and make the big changes in the world you want to see. And I have a feeling we haven't figured out this part totally yet, but I can't stop wondering what the highest levels of Psyrunning would look like. Both in people like psychopaths or maybe Aspies versus normal people. And what does it mean you're helping develop weapons other people will be able to use better than you can? Or can you? Is that where having that, even if it's minimal, even if you hate it, connection with humanity at large is a benefit in a way you don't notice yet? I notice in the manipulation game, I don't fuck up as much because, again, even if it's limited, even if I hate it, I still share the basic human experience with other people, and fucking up within boundaries or in normal ways makes you look less threatening. We talked about it last time, but sometimes it's good to look stupid. And in a weird way, fucking up naturally, normally, the way a normal person would, is another thing you don't need to fake to try to blend in. Accidentally reveal you're even more selfish than you let on. People don't like that, but that's human. Screw up trying to get someone to give you their car keys so you can steal their car. That's a lot worse in terms of fucking up. You look a little too selfish, people will look down their noses at you, but in that way you look less threatening. Versus if you screw up a big play, a play that a normal person would not make or would not fuck up, and hyper threat detectors go off, and you can't unring that bell. That's why I'm not too worried about this psychopath. He's a threat, he's a problem, both on a big picture and on an individual level. But I'm not as worried about him as I was originally, because he revealed he's not flawless. And when he's fucked up big enough, some people's bells have been rung and they won't be unrung. A lot of people hate me, but they know I'm human. All this said, Psyrunning is a field. It's already operating, and there's so much more out there because people who have nothing to do with typology are already in it, meaning all we need to do is uncover all of what's already there. And I want to. In my lifetime, I want to see how far we can push this and in how many different ways it can be pushed. Because we've said before, there's not one typology, and even within MBTI or cognitive functions MBTI, which is what we use, there isn't one singular proper way to do it. Every typology quotes master has their own school, their own version of typology, like a version of a martial art. And God, how much further can we push these with time and effort and hopefully one day resources? And then what are these schools going to look like once they are properly militarized? I've been playing Star Sector lately. What we're doing right now is like taking a civilian ship or a civilian hull ship and then refitting it for militarized operations. But that's not the same thing as an original, fundamentally military vessel. And I know there are people trying to do Psyrunning shit, but to my eyes, many of these attempts are lame and don't work. Some of them do. It must be 5 years or more now. I remember going into a Frank James live stream when he hadn't transitioned fully into skits. I don't know what he's doing these days, but in that live stream, Doc Holliday, I'm your Huckleberry bullshit. Maybe that live stream is still up somewhere, but Jesus, he was talking about playing people masterfully. So it's not just one way of doing things. There are going to be different schools of using psychology this way once we get serious about it. And the reason I separate Psyrunning, which is using typology in a weaponized way, versus, I don't know, other psychological games and shit, is the psychological games are limited, and what system are they based on? How do you evolve these things? They do work, some of them, some of the time, but again, it's a matter of organization and discipline. Once you have a system, like a logistics network, you aren't just doing hit and run guerrilla bullshit. It gets a lot more serious. You are capable of so much more. And by that point, it's no longer just an individual pulling bullshit. You have the tools available to you to pull group bullshit. And there's not really a solid point to this video outside discussing all the facets of a thing I'm excited to see be set in motion. And an individual can do so much with the little we have right now. What a rush it is to discover mechanics of the mind you or other people can turn into tools and benefit from. It's a progress chain, and you get to be part of it. You get to be on the cutting edge. And I was thinking about this the other day. How can you call psychology a soft science if the reason you call it soft is you're too inept to quantify it? Because I don't think we're going to reach a point, at least in our lifetimes, we can boil people down or quantify individuals totally, but it's completely within the possibility to quantify it enough you can benefit from it before the species catches up. And I wonder about that too. Is it a mistake that people... Well, actually, it's... Fuck. It's kind of like the queer thing, right? You have... Hold on. This is a larger topic. With the queer thing, you have a large number of people who dismiss it outright. You have another large number of people who accept it but then fuck it up. And then you have a very, very small number of people who are doing serious work that is going to change things for the species a couple centuries from now. Same thing with typology. Most people write it off. Another most people accept it, but then do it in a fuck shit way that's useless. But then you have these select conclaves of people who are, in their own ways, engineering typology in a way shit's gonna get wild. And you get to be one of them. And I wonder if that's a mistake. Because, as with the queer thing, my suspicion is there's something very potent in there, and it's been set up in a way... It's like people don't want anyone to figure out what's actually going on there. So you have the wonderful few space monkeys, non-regime space monkeys, figuring it out on our behalves. I'm wondering if there's something similar going on with typology. Because how do powerful groups not already understand how potent typology is? This might be one of those once in a history opportunities. You know, we deify the CIA, but what if they aren't aware of this? I mean, you're sure they are. They must be. But what if they aren't? What if you're in a position to harness the atom before anybody else does? On a human level, on an individual level, or on a popular level? What could you do with it? The only thing I'm upset about is it takes so long to decipher this shit, how typology works and then can be used. And we're making progress, but it's not happening fast enough. And then you think about, you start thinking about other things. Scientifically, we act like we have everything figured out. And then you notice some things that you think we should have figured out by now, but we don't. And then it's like the floodgate opens up, and you start to understand just how many things we don't understand, but we could if we chose to study them. So why aren't we studying them? The information is out there. Do we just prefer to feel like we know things instead of taking measures actually to know things? And then, why does it feel like it takes work to realize how much shit we don't know, but should, or more importantly, could? Why does it feel like we're programmed not to be aware of how much we don't know, but could? I am tweaking just a little bit this evening. I don't want to die until I've figured out as much as I can within my lifetime. And there's too much. There's way too much to figure out. Why isn't the learning or the decrypting happening faster? That's one of the reasons I want to unlock Psyrunning, so we can control people and make them help us figure things out faster. You're at risk of living your entire life as a rock on the side of a river of information, when if you could just figure out how to roll yourself a little bit you could dive straight into that river and then live a life totally worth living. We need to stop or I'm going to start bleeding out of my eyes. Psyrunning is cool. Be thinking about it. Come up with methods. Try them. Figure out which ones work. We're going to need them later. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.